Imagine this. You're standing on the edge of a cliff. Below you, the fog swirls like smoke from an invisible fire, and somewhere beneath it, out of sight, is the life you've always claimed to want, the love you say you're waiting for, the work you say you're meant for, the version of yourself you keep postponing becoming. But your feet don't move. You tell yourself, you're not quite ready. Not yet. Maybe next month. Maybe after the next book, the next podcast, the next meditation retreat. You say you're preparing. You say you're getting your mind right. You say that to leap now would be premature, reckless even. And in this endless postponement, you feel safe, but not alive. Now imagine this. You never leap. Not today. Not next year. Not ever. You die at the edge of that cliff, still convincing yourself you were almost ready. What if that is the true tragedy? Not failure, not humiliation, not falling, but never daring to risk the fall at all. We live in an age that worships preparation. Build the mindset, gather the tools, wait for clarity. We're obsessed with readiness, as if one day we'll wake up and finally feel worthy of our desires, as if a clean and courageous future will arrive without us first walking into the chaos of the unknown. But here's the paradox. The state of readiness we crave never comes. And Nietzsche knew this. He didn't believe in the comfort of waiting. He believed in becoming, a process born not in preparation, but in confrontation. He wrote of the Übermensch not as a reward for the well-prepared, but as the one who transcends the need to feel ready before acting. So ask yourself honestly, what are you waiting for permission to begin? Who would you be if you stopped preparing and started moving, despite the fear, despite the doubt, despite the unfinished plan? What if the idea that you must be ready is not a virtue, but a cage? What if the belief that you still need more time is the very illusion keeping you small? And what if, this entire time, readiness has been nothing more than a myth, a lie your comfort told your potential to keep it asleep? You say you're building yourself, but who are you building for? And how long will you keep building before you actually become? In a world addicted to safety, what would it mean to act without a net? Feel the weight of that question. Let it ache in your chest, because the longer you wait to answer it, the more your life begins to resemble a beautifully constructed prison. And now the question sharpens. What if every second you spend preparing is actually a delay you'll never get back?
We're taught to believe that success follows strategy, that if we just think long enough, map it out thoroughly enough, emotionally prepare deeply enough, we'll become unstoppable. But there's a problem no one wants to admit. Strategy without action is self-deception. Preparation without risk is avoidance, and readiness is an illusion. Nietzsche saw this paralysis long before the age of dopamine hacks and productivity porn. He saw how we manufacture mental scaffolding not to climb, but to avoid climbing. His entire philosophy is a declaration of war against this internal cowardice, the soft, whispering part of us that says, wait, just a little longer. To Nietzsche, the truly dangerous man is not the one who fails. It's the one who waits endlessly to succeed. Because waiting eventually becomes who you are. You don't just delay action. You become a man who delays. your identity fuses with your fear. And the more perfect your plan becomes, the more fragile your willingness becomes to break it with the chaos of real life. This is what he meant when he spoke of the will to power. It isn't domination over others. It's the brutal and active overcoming of your own inner resistance, your false humility, your fear of exposure, your addiction to control. And today, that resistance takes a form more seductive than ever. Overthinking, endless self-improvement, analysis paralysis dressed as spiritual maturity. You convince yourself you're deep. You call it refining your path. You tell yourself, I'm not afraid. I just want to do it right. But if you were honest, you'd admit it. You're afraid to be seen stumbling. You're terrified of starting ugly. You don't want to be mediocre on the way to becoming excellent. So you hide. In books, in courses, in overplanning. All while time bleeds out of your life like a wound you pretend isn't there. Let's call it what it is. An addiction to intellectual safety. Nietzsche would spit on it. Not because knowledge is bad, but because knowledge without embodiment is sterile, powerless, meaningless. You were not born to become ready. You were born to transform. And transformation is violent. It breaks things. It humiliates the ego. It brings chaos before it brings clarity. And that's exactly why you resist it. But here's the reality you can't escape. There is no clean version of your future. There is no perfect plan that protects you from doubt. And there is no version of you that's ever fully ready. The only way to become who you're meant to be is to act before you're ready. That's the truth most people can't swallow. They wait for confidence instead of realizing that confidence is the reward for moving without it. So what's it going to be? Keep polishing your goals in the safety of thought? Or accept that the version of you who takes action will always look like a fool in the beginning? Because Nietzsche's myth of readiness isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a mirror. And every time you choose planning over movement, the reflection in that mirror grows dimmer.
There's something quietly terrifying about a man who spends his entire life almost beginning. He becomes articulate, informed, even inspiring, yet strangely hollow. Because deep down, he knows. He has built nothing, and that knowledge rots him. You can see it in his eyes. He doesn't glow with conviction. He dims with hesitation. He doesn't walk with fire. He drags the weight of unrealized potential behind him. He might sound sharp, even wise, but his wisdom is theoretical, untested, unscarred. That's what Nietzsche feared more than stupidity, unlived knowledge. He believed that ideas must pass through the furnace of action before they become truth. And if they don't, they're just decoration, elegant excuses for inaction. That's the real cost of over-preparation. You become a spectator of your own depth. You build the map, but never touch the land. You study the path, but never take a step. And while you're busy mastering the theory of your future self, the real you, here, now, dries up. Eventually, the belief that you're preparing starts to wear thin. The voice in your head that once said, "You're being smart," now whispers, "You're afraid." And soon, even your distractions lose their flavor. Because nothing can distract you forever from the truth. You were meant to act, not wait. And here's the harshest part. Every time you postpone what calls you, your respect for yourself erodes. Not in a dramatic, visible way, but slowly, quietly, like a leak beneath your floorboards. Until one day you look in the mirror and don't trust the man staring back. Not because he failed, but because he never tried. This is what Nietzsche meant when he said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But to find that why, you must leave the comfort of constant mental rehearsal. You must step into the raw, disordered world of doing. Because that's where the transformation happens. Not in your vision board, not in your productivity app, not in your next journaling session, but in the sweat, the trembling, the mess, the real. And that's where most stop. Because action reveals what theory can't protect you from. Your limitations, your cowardice, your unfinished self. But guess what? That's the point. You are not supposed to be ready. You're supposed to collide with the world, and in that collision, become something more. So, here's the final truth. If you want clarity, move. If you want confidence, fail. If you want transformation, step out, unfinished, afraid, and alive. Because while others are waiting for the perfect moment to begin, you can become the kind of person who begins before the moment is perfect. And if Nietzsche were standing beside you now, he wouldn't ask if you feel prepared. He'd ask only one thing. Are you willing to become real? That's the only readiness that matters. And it begins now.
Let this moment settle. Not as another piece of content you consume, but as a confrontation, a private revolt against the voice inside you that's been asking for more time. Because here's the secret no one tells you. You'll never have more time than you do right now. Not when you're more confident, not when you're more healed, not when you feel aligned. That fantasy version of yourself, the one who's calm, clear, and completely prepared, doesn't exist. He's a ghost, a mirage. And the longer you wait for him, the more distant you become from the one thing that could actually change your life. Decisive, imperfect action. This is the sickness of modern self-development. We overthink, we overread, we overplan, and in doing so, we underlive. We bury our vitality beneath layers of insight. We kill our instincts with strategy. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, watching other people build while we polish our purpose like a fragile ornament. But life doesn't care how well you've designed your future. It only responds to who you are. When things are uncertain, when you feel unworthy, when you're scared but move anyway. That's what Nietzsche understood. That's what becoming actually demands. Not perfect confidence, but radical courage. The kind that acts with trembling hands and a racing heart. The kind that chooses exposure over control. The kind that risks failure over slowly dying in safety. So ask yourself again, quietly, honestly, what are you pretending to prepare for, but secretly avoiding? What dream have you coded in research, smothered with podcasts, and buried beneath another master plan? What part of you has withered while you waited? And what would happen not if you succeeded, but simply if you began?
if you dropped the mask of needing to be ready and decided to become someone who dares without permission. That's not recklessness, that's reality. That's what makes a life feel real again. Because while everyone else is optimizing their intentions, the rare few are out there stumbling forward, bloodied by failure, but blazing with fire. You don't need another course. You don't need another quote. You need a threshold and the will to cross it. This video was that threshold. So don't dilute this moment with another scroll. Don't cover this discomfort with another productive distraction. Sit in it. Breathe in it. Act from it. Do something now, not tomorrow, that breaks the cycle. Something uncomfortable, visible, real. Even if it's small. Especially if it costs you something. Because that act, right there, is how the myth of readiness finally dies. And from its ashes, a real life begins.
There's a reason Nietzsche spoke of becoming who you are as if it were a battle. Because it is. But it's not a battle against the world. Not against critics, competition, or external failure. The real battle, the one most men never face, is against the part of themselves that refuses to begin. The part that says, let me just get it right first. I'm not in the right state of mind. It's not time yet. That voice, it sounds reasonable, but it's the voice of spiritual decay. It wears the mask of wisdom, but it's fear. It wears the mask of patience, but it's resistance. It wears the mask of self-respect, but it's self-doubt. And if you let it speak too long, it will write your life story in invisible ink. You'll have brilliant ideas, beautiful intentions, noble excuses, but nothing real to point to. Nothing touched, nothing risked, nothing lived. And that is the slowest, most respectable kind of death. Nietzsche knew that becoming is brutal, that transformation is not clean, it's feral. He knew that the path forward requires not more intellect, but the annihilation of the part of you still begging for guarantees. He said, the snake which cannot shed its skin must die. But he didn't just mean it biologically, he meant it existentially. If you can't shed the old story, the old safety, the old mask you wear to protect yourself from failure, then you're not living, you're preserving. And preservation, over time, becomes decay. So here's the final confrontation. Will you keep refining your identity until the day you die? Or will you risk becoming someone who is not yet finished, but finally in motion? Because that's the only difference between the remembered and the forgotten. Not genius, not luck, not timing, but the willingness to step out unfinished and stay out long enough for reality to mold you. And no one can give that to you. Not this video, not Nietzsche, not any god, guru, or mentor. Only you. You are the jailer. You are the key. And today, like every day, you are standing at the door. You can go back to preparation, you can polish the plan, fix your mindset, wait for clarity, or you can finally open that door and meet the chaos of action face to face. No perfection, no protection, no guarantees. Only this: you will be alive. And that, in the end, is the only thing worth being. So burn the script, break the mirror,
Step forward, ready or not.